They say you need a Hilux or a cruiser to survive the Kalahari. But this is the Chinese Hilux. We're tackling the infamous Nosop to Mabua Trail. The desert struck back. Can the P-Series earn its stripes, or is the legend of the Hilux safe for another year? Don't let the price tag fool you. Underneath this P-Series is some serious hardware. It's got the ZF 8-speed gearbox, the same transmission you'll find in luxury SUVs. For the rough stuff, it's got a bog-worn torque-on-demand system, a proper low-range transfer case, and a rear diff lock. The only modifications are a set of Salion Terramax RTs for extra grip and a towbar to pull this lightweight Echo 3 rental trailer. I'm still testing the waters, deciding between a full canopy build and sticking with a trailer, so this strip is the ultimate shakedown for the mighty Chilux. I actually had to install this towbar specifically for this journey. At the time I had no idea that this one simple addition was about to become the biggest headache of the entire expedition. But that headache was still a few hundred kilometers away. For now the tank was full, the tires were aired up, and the mighty Chilux was finally heading for the Kalahari. We camped at Kambiki Farm in Uppington, and the only thing on the menu was some world-class boerewors. A chance to enjoy the stillness before we hit the infamous corrugations of the Nosop Mabua Trail. We got an early start. The gravel road from Towbar to Nosop is smooth with wide horizons, and the locals, like this ostrich, just watching us roll by. A quick stop at Melkflare picnic site, and this sparrow weaver pounced on the bonnet to enjoy some grilled insects. We turned right at Nosop, leaving the graded roads and the South African border behind. This is it, the start of the Bosobogolo Trail. 170 kilometers of deep sand and isolation lie between us and Mabua Sahube. A quick pit stop to get a fresh beverage and to enjoy the scenery, when suddenly I realized that there are line tracks everywhere. It's a vivid reminder that on the Botswana side, you are no longer at the top of the food chain. No more picnic sites, no more fences, and definitely no more cell signal. It's just the P-Series, the Echo 3 trailer, and the true wilderness of the Botswana side. Next up was the first dune of the Boso Trail. To our surprise, the P-Series conquered it with ease. The secret? Dropping the tire pressure to 1.5 bar and keeping the ZF 8-speed in its power band. Low range and momentum is key. You may notice a shovel in the sand. It wasn't used for digging. It's actually there as a self-defense mechanism. There are a lot of small dunes at the start of the Boso Trail. Most of them are fairly easy to get over as long as you keep up your momentum. Lunch on the trail is simple but effective. Last night's leftover wors and some fried eggs. If I have to choose between a 5-star hotel's buffet breakfast and a bush breakfast, I'll choose a bush breakfast most days of the week. But it's the silence that really gets you. It's surreal to be isolated. No signal, no cars, just the sound of the wind. Out here you aren't just driving through nature. You're finally back in touch with it. With our bellies full, we pushed deeper into Botswana. There's a specific rhythm to the desert when you're truly alone. No more talking, just the road and the scale of the great Kalahari. What makes these Kalahari dunes difficult isn't just the height or the soft sand, it's the ruts. You can't build the speed you need because the track is chewed up. Why? Because of heavy trailers and tour groups. When someone gets stuck and spins their wheels until a lead vehicle pulls them out, they leave behind deep ruts that stay there for the next guy. You even see it on the small dunes. The momentum is killed before you even start the climb. And what catches you off guard are these ruts on the other side of the dune. To my relief, the knocking sound you hear was just a fire extinguisher that wasn't fastened properly behind the back seat. I call it the Chinese Hilux, but out here in the deep stuff, the P-Series doesn't care about a nameplate. Even with the Echo 3 trailer hanging off the back, it handled these dunes with absolute ease. The P-Series was making these dunes look easy, and the confidence was high. But the Kalahari has a way of humbling you, just when you think you've got it figured out. Around the next bend we saw it, a stark contrast to our shiny Chilux, and a sobering look at the stakes out there. Seeing a burnt out wreck in the middle of the trail changes your perspective instantly. This Prado at Matopi is a grim reminder of how quickly things can go wrong when you're far away from help.
Reckon that was a Prado?
It looks like it, eh? Yeah, it is a Prado.
3 Prados. 3 Prados burnt down. That's not a good look for Toyotas.
It seems like the majority of these desert wrecks are Prados. If you know the real reason why, let me know in the comments. They say the wild gives you signs before it takes its toll. Seeing that disabled Prado on the trail felt like an omen, a silent warning that the desert always collects a fee. When we stopped and climbed under the P-Series, the reality hit. The Towbar was failing, we were in the middle of nowhere, and the clock was suddenly our greatest enemy. I had a flight to catch in 3 days. There was no room for a total breakdown. We were faced with a brutal choice. Limp towards Tabong, risking the trailer snapping off completely and causing a disaster, or ditch the trailer right there in the sand, race to town for repairs and come back for it later. Safety won. We chose the latter. There was no time to document the unhitching. There was no time for cinematic shots. We were racing against the sun and the ticking clock of a flight I couldn't afford to miss. We unhooked a piece of our home in the dunes and drove to Tsabong. There is a strange psychological shift that happens when you're forced to abandon your gear. Even though it was a lightweight trailer, the difference was massive. It was a stressful, unfortunate turn of events, but at the same time it felt eerily weird. A load had been literally and figuratively lifted off the back of the P-Series. It felt light and nimble. Every time I looked in the rearview mirror and saw nothing but empty dust, my heart sank. But it also felt good. We were faster. Pulling into Tsabong Motors, the stress started to give way to hope. I have to say a massive thank you to Rusty and his wife. They dropped everything else to help us, replacing the nuts and bolts to make sure we could get back to the sand safely. While the P-Series was in the shop, we spent our time exploring Tsabong. There's something special about the people here. Every person we met was incredibly friendly and hospitable. The spirit of Ubuntu isn't just a concept, it is very real, and we felt it in every conversation. By sunset, we were back in Bosobogolo, cruising. Feeling the Chilux sail over the corrugations made everything click. That was the moment I decided. A canopy build is the way to go for me. The kindness we found in town reminded me that we're all part of a much larger story. What does it take to preserve a world like this? This is a vital truth we must hold on to. We have the power to change the fate of the wild. Imagine if we lost this, the golden sunsets, the unforgiving grit of the desert, and the resilient souls that call it home. Consider the lion. He goes all in on every hunt, knowing a single kick from a gemsbok or a eland could be his end. If he lives with that level of commitment, shouldn't we? As overlanders, we aren't just spectators, we are witnesses. We capture these moments to remind the world why conservation isn't a choice, but a necessity. In the Kalahari, life is stripped to its essence. We come here to reconnect with the universe through its simplest elements. How can anyone witness this and remain unmoved? To look at the complexity of our own existence and see anything less than a miracle. Here everything is connected. Think of the water you drink. It flows through your veins, evaporates from your skin, joins the clouds and returns to the earth as rain. You feel the divine because the river and the sky are literally flowing through you. Whether you find that connection in a vast landscape or the embrace of a loved one, it's the same truth. Science is simply the language of God. The wild is my church. If we have a purpose, it is to care for one another and the world around us. Society offers many traps, cheap thrills and easy escapes that feel good but break the soul. In the wild, the line between survival and death is razor thin and honest. Out here, you don't just see the cycle of life, you remember that you're part of it. As the last light faded, we were still on the move. We had full permission from the staff at Mabua to drive after dark to recover the trailer. They were very understanding, and it's a reminder that in Botswana, there is a beautiful balance of freedom and personal responsibility. We lost our night at Keating Pan, but the desert has a way of balancing the scales. Instead of a campfire, we were rewarded with 2 incredible lion sightings, a rare, awesome gift. We didn't film much of the final dash back to Tsabong or the border crossing into South Africa. We were just focused on the road and the flight ahead. But in that quiet, dark drive, the real meaning of this place started to sink in. Our final night on the road was spent at Gecko Accommodation and Bush Pub. It was the perfect place to decompress, great food and some cold beers, and that classic bush atmosphere that makes you feel right at home. It gave us a moment to breathe before the final dash to the airport. As this journey comes to an end, I hope you've enjoyed the first look into my time in the Kalahari. This trip has taught me a lot about the wild, but it also taught me exactly what I need for my next setup. If you want to see which canopy I eventually choose for the P-Series and exactly how I'm going to configure it for the next adventure, make sure to hit that subscribe button. There's a lot more coming, and I'd love to have you along for the build. And finally, a quick lesson in South African road safety. The speed limit in residential areas is 60. Most places when there's a massive hole in the ground and men at work, they ask you to slow down to 40. But not here. When the road disappears, the sign tells you to hit 80. I suppose the goal is to fly over the potholes rather than drive through them. Only in South Africa, folks. Only in South Africa.